As you may or may not know, my wife and I just got back from Vegas. It was a great trip. We ate, we drank, we had a blast. But then we got home and looked at the credit card, and I gotta say, it doesn't matter how much fun you're having, $25 for a drink is a ripoff. Frickin' Vegas. I hate getting ripped off, and so do the lads over at Harry's. They spent years watching the razor blade companies rip people off and said, no more. Not all heroes wear capes, my friends, and they want to prove that they're legit by offering you hot dogs a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. I've been telling you about them for months, and I'm genuinely proud to have Harry's as a sponsor of this show. I wasn't kidding. The plastic, futuristic-looking crap razors you get at the store are overpriced and they're poor quality. Harry's blades are crisp, clean, and classy. They're the kind of razor you'd expect your grandpa to have on his bathroom counter. And most importantly, they work. Shave after shave, they're so smooth, they're precise. I used to go through the crappy store blades all the time, but Harry's are built to last. And they're not just better quality than the other names, they're more affordable. And they deliver. Just set your schedule, and for as little as $2, new blades, shaving creams, lotions, everything you need, right to your door when you need it. I genuinely cannot think of a reason not to try Harry's. And I'm not just saying this because they're sponsors. They're the best shaving supplies I've ever used. Try them out, and if you're not happy, your shave's on them. And unlike the other subscriptions, they're really easy to cancel if you want to too, which is a nice bonus, but believe me, you're not going to want to cancel. Getting ripped off isn't funny. Switch to Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. That's harrys.com/RTG for a $3 trial set. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game. It is my retro gaming podcast where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and we geek out about the games we played back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And this week it is episode 138, and I figured we'd kind of right two wrongs with one stone. I think that's the saying. We're going to show some love to two things this week that have not received nearly enough of it in the past here at Remember the Game Industries. And those things are the Game Boy Advance and the Metroid franchise, because we are talking Metroid fucking Fusion for the GBA, baby. As I've admitted on this show many times in the past, my knowledge and experience with the Game Boy Advance is quite minimal. It came out at a time in my life where my priority was the bar and getting turned down by women, as opposed to playing video games. But I am slowly catching up. We're getting there. My buddy and returning guest to the show, Daniel, recommended Metroid Fusion to me. I finally took the plunge. I saw that it was quite short. Admittedly, it's like 5-6 hours. That was part of what intrigued me, was that it was like something like a knockout in a weekend. And let me tell you, fucking, first of all, give me a 5-hour game of this quality over 40 hours of fart any day of the week. And second of all, I beat it in 3 sessions and it was awesome. Metroid Fusion is great. We're going to get into that in just a little bit, because speaking of farts, it is time for another edition of the Remember the Game infamous intro. Dun, 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 dun. And as always, if this is your first time Remember the Game rodeo, I'll give you the lay of the land. The intro is usually pretty beefy. It's fairly long. If all you want is Metroid Fusion Talk, just check the description box of this show. There's timestamps there telling you exactly where to skip around and what to go to just get to the sections that you want. And I actually have a couple of things to plug this week, and they're both very, very important. So if you usually skip the plugs, I mean, first of all, that hurts my heart slightly. But no, don't skip. Stick around. Listen. First and foremost, I'm finally doing an online comedy show. Some of you have been asking me about it for a while, saying if I'd look at doing a virtual show, and my bank account says that it is time. It's been a year next week, basically, since I lost my job and comedy pretty well died. So I'll be doing an online show, one night, one show, Saturday, March 20th. It'll be at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is 6 p.m. on the Pacific Pacific Standard Time. It is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I think it's Wednesday at 2:45 in the afternoon in Great Britain and Australia, I think. Sorry, I'm not sure about the other side of the pond. But Saturday, March 20th, 7 p.m. Mountain, former Remember the Game Hall of Famer Mark McHugh is going to be opening the show, and then I will be closing it out and doing 45 to 50 minutes or so of my jokes that I can remember. Tickets are $20 Canadian, which is, I think, 8 cents American, and you only need one per house. That's the smoking thing. You buy one ticket, and then the night of the show, the people I'm working with that are producing the show will send you a link to watch. You can click it. The show is right there. And if you've got a webcam and a mic, I'll be able to see you and maybe hear you. Although if you're being loud, they will mute your ass. So it's actually, like, I fought it forever doing a virtual show, but these guys run an awesome ship. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of you have mentioned that you'd be interested in seeing something like that. If you want to see my stand-up comedy, this is your chance. Tickets are available right now on Eventbrite. Just search for Adam Blank and you'll find my Fine, I'll do an online comedy show event. It should be the first one that comes up. Please don't wait to get your tickets if you're going to get them, because it really helps us to know how many people are going to be watching. $20, Eventbrite, March 20th, 7 p.m. Me and Mark McHugh telling jokes. Be awesome if you watch us. And while I'm plugging stuff, our Patreon still exists, and we are at, dude, as I look at this right now, I click refresh on my fancy little computer device. Active Patreons, 200. So, dun, 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 dun. Thank you all so much for getting us there. I didn't think that was even possible. We had like 15 at one point, and now we're at 200. So, thank you so much. Listen, if you want to join that group, you can get in there. It is $2. You get access to Game Patch early every week. You get exclusive access to Expansion Pass every Sunday. All old episodes. Download them onto your phone. You can send in comments to be read. Access to our Discord. Our Patreon poll is running right now. You can vote on that until Saturday. It is the All Sega edition this month, so there's 6 Sega games. I'll play the winner and give it an episode of Remember the Game. And the first week of the month really is the best time to sign up, because you don't get charged again until April 1st. So you get in there now for $2. You basically have a full month to catch up on old episodes, vote in the polls, all that kind of stuff. Last week for Expansion Pass, we picked the must-own game for basically every Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, and Sega console. It was really, really fun. And as is becoming tradition, I'm going to let you in a little sneak peek now. Here's a sneak peek at the most recent edition of Remember the Game Expansion Pass. So now after Game Boy is the legendary almighty SNES, and this is going to get ugly. This one, I'm going to fire off every answer you guys wrote in with. I'll work my way through them. And if there's one console where I'm not going to yell at anybody for picking multiple games, this is the one, because I understand. Andre said Final Fantasy II. Michael Mathis and Jeffrey Mathis said Final Fantasy III. Luis Oliva and Michael Mathis again said Chrono Trigger. Scott Brooks, Kelly, Ninja Lunchbox 79 all said The Legend of Zelda Link to the Past. Kelly also said Super Metroid. Raging Demon said Killer Instinct. SJ Flash, Stitch, and Matt McLean also said Super Mario World. Doug Dorn wrote in and said, I would argue that Mario Kart is an essential title for any Nintendo console or handheld that received a version. And personally, I would consider Super Mario RPG, Earthbound, Yoshi's Island, Mario All-Stars, the Donkey Kong Country games. How do you pick one? Which one of those is must own? So that episode is live right now, along with 47 old Expansion Pass sitting there on Patreon waiting for you. This Sunday, for episode 49, we're going to look back at the first 4 years of the Nintendo Switch, because it actually turns 4 today. Wednesday, March 3rd is the 4th birthday of the Nintendo Switch. So we're going to look back at the last 4 years, what's gone right, what's gone wrong, stuff like that. And then next Sunday is episode 50 of Expansion Pass. And just to put it out there right now, I'm going to do something you guys have been asking for a while and rank my top 20 SNES games of all time. So again, $2 gets you all those episodes. It'd be awesome. A huge thank you to all of our newest Patreons. There's a lot of them this week. Joshua Davis, Faro Vitali, Stefan Fukasawa, Steve O'Connor, Thor the Hammered, Tristan McKinnon, Jafar McJr., Mega Man 2 OG, Chris Goodfellow, Ari Picker, Dane Upton, and Rogue Agent. I'm sure I fucked at least 2 of those names up, but thank you all so much. Welcome to Remember the Game Industries. And I had been plugging that when we hit 200 Patreons. I was going to send everyone a Remember the Game lanyard. The problem is that we hit 200, and then the month rolled over. Some credit cards got declined, whatever. Some people got canceled. Then we get back over 200. And so I don't know who should be in or out. So here's what I'm going to do. If you sign up for our Patreon by March 21st, you will get mailed a Remember the Game lanyard. Okay, my hope is that you'll sign up, see that the quality and stuff is there, and continue to stay on as a Patreon. And if you don't, you paid $2, got to listen to all the extra podcasts, and got a Remember the Game lanyard and a thank you note from me. I will send one to everybody that signs up at patreon.com/remember the game by March 21st. So if you've been on the fence, if you've been thinking about it, it is literally the best possible time ever to sign up. The Patreon poll is running. You get a month of podcasts, and I will send you a Remember the Game lanyard later on, after March 21st. Okay? There you go. There's the full plugs. I stream on Twitch. You guys all know that. I'm not going to waste any more time on plugs. Let's get into the game show. Let's get into the podcast, if it will. And we start with blowing in some cartridges. It is our opening segment here every week. I read a few comments and questions from our Patreons, usually gaming related, but not always. And we call this segment Blowing in the Cartridge. Let's blow. And I got to come up with like something to play there. Oh, dude, I could use the Simpsons thing of right. It blows, all right. It blows big time. I'm going to edit that in right. I'm putting that in my notes. You guys are getting to hear that for the first time ever. I'm going to edit that in right now. It blows.
He blows, all right. He blows big time.
That's it, honey. Get into the spirit.
Okay, I knew. Oh, dude, I've been looking for a soundbite for the intro to Blowing in the Cartridge forever, and we finally got one. Ha. Okay, let's start this thing off. Troy, with the last name that starts with a K that I cannot pronounce, was the first person that's going to blow this week. And Troy said, I just started playing Ori and the Blind Forest this week after it went on sale. My God, this game conjures such an emotional response with its non-dialogue story and musical score. I can see why it was praised so wildly from everyone I know who has played it. Thank you for being the decisive voice that finally got me to pull the trigger on buying it. Well, that and the $16 price tag. Side note, if you are getting merchandise this year, are you planning on designing and making some Remember the Game seal of approval stickers? First of all, Troy, the seal of approval sticker is a great fucking idea. You're hired. You're hired. We actually have wheels in motion on merch right now. I'm actually I should have some samples ordered this week. It's probably going to take a couple weeks for me to get the samples. I'm not going to put anything up for sale until I see if it sucks. I don't want it to be garbage. But stickers are on the horizon. I don't know if we're going to do a seal right away. We're starting with a couple designs and we're going to roll it out. But I'm hoping that by some point in April, that the Remember the Game merchandise is available for sale for those of you that want to support me over there. And as far as Ori goes, dude, yes. Fuck yes. I rarely throw around the word gorgeous. It's not really not my jam. I'm more of an ugly man. But yeah, Ori is simply gorgeous. Both of them. My girlfriend was watching me play one of them a little while ago. I don't remember which one. And she said the same thing. She was like, this is just such a nice game to look at. And once you get past how it looks, like you said, the music, the story, the characters, it's just such a beautiful video game. And it's super fun to play. If you like Metroidvanias, I'm going to keep suggesting these games. Ori and the Blind Forest and the sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. They're on Xbox Game Pass. They're on the Nintendo Switch as well. They absolutely get the Remember the Game seal of approval. Dude, those games and they're both on sale all the time. They're fucking so good if you like Metroidvania games. Highly recommended. Great call, Troy. Yamcha wrote in and said, hey, Adam, have you heard of Jay and Silent Bob Mall Brawl? It's an NES beat-em-up that looks like River City Ransom. I bought my NES copy from Limited Run Games, and it does work on my NES, and I also believe it's on Switch and Steam. If you're a huge Jay and Silent Bob or Clerks fan like I am, it's a must-have, must-play kind of game. Pretty challenging, yet fun for the NES. Definitely check it out. So worth the playthrough. Snoochie Boochie. So I love that. I have heard of it. Yamcha, it's funny you say this. My buddy Andre, a regular here on the show, he's the Final Fantasy VIII guest last week. He actually was texting me about it just a few days ago, saying that he bought it, and he said it's pretty tough, but like you said, he's really digging it as well. Now, as you guys probably know, I'm not the world's biggest movie fan. I don't watch a lot of movies. The only Jay and Silent Bob movie I've seen is actually Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I've not seen Clerks. That said, I do like Kevin Smith. And for some reason, some people don't. And I don't understand why. I don't know enough about movies and what he's done and shit to know why some people don't like him. I've always thought he seemed like a really cool guy. And maybe I'll tell this story someday. He is actually a huge inspiration for me in what got me started in stand-up comedy. Not because he's funny, but just the way he talks and the way he really hammers home the message of try something you want to try. And I'll get into that. Maybe someday we'll do an expansion pass where all I do is talk comedy and kind of what got me into it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Kevin Smith is a big inspiration for me. So I probably won't check out the game because I don't know the games or the movies. But yeah, if you guys are Jay and Silent Bob fans, that movie's out right, or that game is out right now, and it seems to be being quite well received. Luis wrote in and said so with Resident Evil Village coming out soon, do you ever plan on ranking the Resident Evil games? You know what, Luis? That is actually something I would really like to do down the road. As you may or may not know, I'm a complete and utter total pussy when it comes to scary games. I am not good at them. I'm not good with them, but I loved Resident Evil 4 and I loved Resident Evil 5. Haters can hate. And since this podcast started, I went back and played Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 in their original forms. I have the Resident Evil remake on my Xbox that I have to get to. Slick Rick sent me a copy of Resident Evil 2 remake that I'm going to get to once I'm done God of War. I really want to play Resident Evil 7 now to get ready for Resident Evil Village because I think it looks dope. I don't think I could do a full ranking of every game in the series because I don't even know what half of them are with the Code Veronicas and Jugheads and all that stuff. But right now, if I wanted to, I could rank Resident Evil 1 through 6 in their original forms. And I say I'm going to play 7, probably going to check out Village. So it's definitely something I want to look at doing a ranking episode of down the road. The ranking games in a series episodes of Expansion Pass are very difficult. I've done Mega Man, I've ranked the core Mario platformers, and I've ranked the Mario Kart games. And there's just not many series in existence that have enough games for me to do a ranking episode where I've also played every game in the series. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to rank 4 games. I want to get up to that 7, 8, 9, 10 games. And there's not many where I've played every game in the series and could do a ranking episode of it. But I am inching toward being able to do that with Final Fantasy as I keep crossing those off my list. And I'm getting closer and closer to being able to rank Resident Evil. So that is definitely something that I'd be interested in doing down the road. And Village does look sick. I agree with you. Mega Man 2 OG wrote in and said, newer listener here. Just wanted to comment that I'm not even close to getting to the backlog of episodes yet, but I have thoroughly been enjoying them so far. Wanted to join to support the great work you and the guests do. Keep it up. Also, don't you hate pants? Fucking dude, a handle like Mega Man 2 OG and you come out of the gate with a Simpsons drop like that is enough to get you on the Hall of Fame ballot someday. Killing it. Mega Man, that you might have even been peaked. That might be the peak of Mega Man 2 OG around here. And of course I hate pants. I hope he tells us to burn them. These things are just, yeah. Simpsons, if you get it, you get it. And speaking of Simpsons quotes, Chris Goodfellow wrote in and said, and another thing, how come I can't get no tang round here? I should just make the opening segment of the show, forget blowing in the cartridge. It could just be random Simpsons quotes. You guys just write in random Simpsons quotes, forget video game talk. I'll just read them off. The show is so close to going off the rails already. Let's just jump the shark. I love it. Good stuff, Chris, and Mega Man. Welcome. And, fucking rights. Simpsons drops. And finally, one last thing before we get into Play One, Remake One, Erase One. It is letter time. It's letter time. And this week, our letter comes from Joshua Davis, who said, Adam, have you ever been to a live WWE event? I've always wanted to go to a WrestleMania to see The Undertaker, who's my favorite, but I won't get the chance since he retired. Also, who's your favorite wrestler? So I won't spend too much time on this because I know some of you aren't wrestling fans, but wrestling's a huge thing for me. One of the few things I like about as much as I like video games. I've been to a couple SmackDown tapings here in Edmonton. I've been to a few house shows. But that's it. I don't think if Edmonton's hosted a Raw, it might have been a very, very long time ago, but I've never gone. And then actually Edmonton hosted a pay-per-view one year, Backlash, which is the pay-per-view after WrestleMania. I want to say it was in 2004. It was the year where Benoit won the title at Mania, WrestleMania 20. And then they had the pay-per-view here after WrestleMania. And as you may or may not know, we're not going to get into what's happened with Chris Benoit, but he is from Edmonton. And so they had a pay-per-view here. He main evented. He was the world champ. And I didn't go because I was cheap and I didn't have a lot of extra money. And I regret it to this day that I didn't go to that event. My girlfriend and I were actually kicking tires on going to SummerSlam last year before everything fell through. But I've always wanted to go to a big pay-per-view myself. My favorite wrestler of all time is probably Chris Jericho. But The Undertaker is maybe the most sentimental to me. He's one of my favorites, and he's actually the reason I'm a pro wrestling fan. He is like, I saw him as a kid, and that was what made me into a pro wrestling fan. So Undertaker and Chris Jericho are both there. I'm a huge fan of The Miz. I love heels. I'm sorry for those of you that don't like The Miz. I love him. MJF and AEW is fantastic. CM Punk is actually one of my all-time favorites as well. I could talk fucking wrestling for days, but that's a few of them. But Chris Jericho is probably my all-time favorite. No, I was going to say Shawn Michaels is there. Kurt Angle's there. No, I'll lock it in. I'll go with Chris Jericho. All right. And that's it. That's all the blowing this week. Thanks to everyone that wrote in. Let's get into our smash hit segment, the official game show of Remember the Game Industries. Play one, remake one, erase one. And a huge thank you, as always, to Classic Concentration from the NES for unknowingly providing us with the theme music for the show. The rules are simple. Each week, I give our listeners 3 retro video games. They can play one as it was released, they can remake one as a modern game, and the third game is erased from time forever. And this week, since I figured we're talking the GBA, let's have some GBA contestants. And I initially planned to slot Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga as one of the 3 games in here. But it already got a remake, and last week, talking about Final Fantasy VII, with Final Fantasy VII Remake, caused all kinds of problems, and just, so I'm not doing that. I just went with 3 games that are pretty universally considered amongst the best that the GBA has to offer, and those 3 are Advance Wars, Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap, and Metroid Fusion. And as always, there are no wrong answers, but there is a right one. We're going to get to that in just a minute. They Call Me Badger is our first contestant this week, and Badger says he would play Metroid Fusion. This game is a direct follow-up to Super Metroid and will likely be the last side-scrolling game in the franchise. It's great and doesn't need much of a top-up. Badger would remake Minish Cap. What an absolute gem of a game. You've even said Zelda is best suited for top-down games, and a remake in the style of Link Between Worlds or the Switch's Link's Awakening remake would make this even better. And then erase Advance Wars. I've heard great things about this game, but unfortunately have never played it, and because of that, it needs to jump on the grenade for these other 2 GBA heavy hitters. So, I have never played Minish Cap, I gotta be honest, but without even ever starting it, I love the idea of remaking it like the Link's Awakening remake, because I want every 2D Zelda game ever made to be made in the style of the Link's Awakening remake, because I love the way that game looks so much. I am a little concerned here, though, because you erased Advance Wars, and I've also never played Advance Wars, and I'm worried that it's just going to get massacred here, being up against Zelda and Metroid. I have not read the other answers, though. We'll see. Let's see how this goes here. What we got? Scott Brooks. Scott says he would play Minish Cap. It is a solid Zelda entry that is consistently overlooked. Remake Metroid Fusion. Well, it's a fun game as it is. It's about high time Nintendo started showing Samus some love, damn it. And sadly, erase Advance Wars. Just like in real war, there are casualties, so it's curtains for you, you adorable turn-based strategy gem. So Scott and Badger flipped the order of play and remake, but both stood firm on erasing poor Advance Wars. So that's 2 straight erasing of Advance Wars. And Scott, for the record, you're talking about them showing Samus some love. I think Nintendo's forgotten Samus exists, hence the lack of love. I think Nintendo lost her number and just stopped calling her. So DNA Gaming wrote in and said, play Metroid Fusion since it's the second best Metroid game and a perfect follow-up to Super Metroid. Just leave this damn game alone unless you want to release it on the Switch Online. That'd be okay. I would say play Minish Cap, as I feel it's overlooked and doesn't need anything, but the fucking rules say I can't, so remake it. Could also bring some much-needed attention to this title. And then erase Advance Wars. It's not that the game is bad, it's the opposite, really. Just the worst of the 3. Also, personally, I prefer my strategy games have RPG elements to them, which this lacks. So, first of all, DNA, thank you for respecting the rules of the game instead of saying play, erase. And second of all, that is now 3 straight contestants erasing Advance Wars. And you know what? All 3 of you were like, it's not a bad game, doesn't seem like a bad game, it's just up against Zelda and Metroid and it fucks it. I really thought, I know that people love this game, I figured it would hold its own up against Zelda and Metroid. I wasn't sure what else to plug in there, and I thought oh no. And I agree with you, DNA. For the love of God, Nintendo, give us GBA games on the Switch. Please give us GBA games on the Switch. Oh, what do we got? Keegs says, play Metroid Fusion. That game is great how it is, and I actually kind of like how linear it is. Remake Zelda. Just like with every other 2D Zelda, just give me that Link's Awakening remake treatment and I'm happy. Erase Advance Wars. This game is awesome, but the second one and the DS one just did it better. Plus, there's also Wargroove for the fantasy version. So that is now 4 straight erasings of Advance Wars. And another, this game is good, it just isn't Zelda or Metroid. Oh my God. It is so hard when I'm setting up Play One, Remake One, Erase One to find 3 games that are all on the same level where one doesn't get cannibalized by the other 2. Also, for the record, Keegs mentioned Wargroove. That came up on Twitch a couple weeks ago too. I want to say Flash. One of our regulars came by and mentioned Wargroove there. Dude, if you have not played Wargroove, I played it on the Switch. It's on Game Pass, I think, now as well. And that's, everyone says it's kind of like a spiritual successor to Advance Wars. And that's kind of what's got me so hot and horny for Advance Wars, because I fucking love Wargroove. So if you're into those tactical games, I highly recommend checking out Wargroove. It is awesome. Very playable on Switch. That's where I played it. So let's see if anyone doesn't erase Advance Wars. Chris Goodfellow says, play Metroid as I'm hoping GBA games come to online service. Remake Zelda since most commentators think it's crap and a facelift might help. Advance Wars, never played it. Gotta erase it. So that is 5 erasings of Advance Wars. Makeshift money. Make Mallow shift money. This one, you're all right. Play Metroid Fusion. Your playthrough makes it look like it hasn't aged a day. Remake Advance Wars. It is way the hell overdue for a new entry. Tactical strategy games are awesome, and I would love to sink time into it anywhere on Switch. And then erase Minish Cap. Oh. And he says, because guess what? You can get the exact same get a weapon, beat a dungeon, get a weapon, beat a dungeon, talk to no one, hear a fairy natter on experience on the countless other Zelda games. Whew. Makeshift. That's a spicy meatball. Send $5 to memberthegame@gmail.com for Makeshift Money's email, phone number, home address, and place of employment, Zelda fans. No, I'm kidding. It's more than $5. But seriously though, like, the thing is I don't necessarily disagree. I'm not saying I'm going to erase Minish Cap, but of Metroid, Advance Wars, and Zelda, if there's one of those series where you could afford to lose a game and still be okay, it's probably Zelda. So I understand the point there. Sam Wright says, play Advance Wars because I've never played the series. That's a nice change of pace. Play it because you've never played it. I appreciate that. Remake Metroid Fusion on the Switch. This game will be awesome and should be the precursor. Oh, God. Coffee. Just a second here. Only at Remember the Game where you get this kind of quality content where I can't say 3-syllable words. Remake Metroid Fusion on the Switch. This game will be awesome and should be the precursor to a brand spanking new Metroid game. And then Sam would erase Minish Cap. This game is garbage. Throw it in the ET landfill, never to return again. Fuck Kinstones. Whew. And I don't know what a Kinstone is, but I also don't have Sam's personal information to sell you. But that's a hot take. I gotta be honest. Like, there's a couple of people now, like Sam said it. Makeshift Money is kind of like, and then somebody else came down on it too. I don't remember who now. But I gotta be honest. I really thought that people liked Minish Cap. I thought it was one of the... I've never played it. It's Mark McHugh and Bradley McHugh are always up my ass to play it. I always thought it was like one of the good Zelda games. But thank you for not just erasing Advance Wars because you haven't played it. Now, I agree with like the 5 of you that played this week that didn't erase Advance Wars, but I don't agree with the order that you guys have dropped. Only 2 of you have the same order as me. Thor knows what's up. Thor the Hammered said, play Minish Cap. The graphics are already great. The gameplay still holds up. Side note, anytime someone votes to erase a Zelda game, can we just erase Majora's Mask instead? It's up to you, Adam. You make the rules. I'm just saying it wouldn't be a bad suggestion. Fucking rights, Thor. Well done. Remake Advance Wars. Give it a Fire Emblem 3 Houses style graphical upgrade with some quality of life improvements. We need more great tactical RPGs on the Switch. And as much as I hate to say it, erase Metroid Fusion. It's a great game, but I can always play Super Metroid instead. Thor, pooping on Majora's Mask will always get you some attention around here. Maybe some hate from some of the hot dogs, but you've got a seat at my table. Anyone that wants to come down on Majora's Mask. And I actually agree with the idea of remaking Advance Wars and putting it on the Switch 100%, as I'm about to explain. The other person that got it right this week was Darren, who said, play Minish Cap, remake Advance Wars, and erase Fusion. Minish Cap continues the tradition of great handheld Zelda games. Advance Wars is a great game that I could never beat, but I would love to see it updated and remade. And Fusion goes away because, well, Metroid games are always good, and there are so many that have done this series well. I agree with you, Darren. And the thing is if we erase Fusion, we still have Super Metroid. I really like Fusion, but if we erase it, we still have Super Metroid. So that's exactly what I would do. I would play Minish Cap because I never have. And while I've never made a play/remake/erase decision based on how people will react, I do slightly worry about the reaction of both the hot dogs and the McHugh brothers if I come in here and erase a Zelda game. I don't know if I can handle that PR night. That could be the cancel culture thing. Finally strike and remember the game if I come in here and erase a Zelda game. That's not Majora's Mask. Plus, like I said, I always thought Minish Cap was good. The McHugh brothers keep saying it's good. They keep saying I should play it. So yeah, I'll play some Zelda. I would remake Advance Wars because as I said, I've never played this one either, and I really want to. I love these types of games. Like I said, I played the fuck out of Wargroove. Everyone says that Wargroove is quite blatantly Advance Wars, so God fucked if I'm going to erase something that's like Wargroove. That's not happening. So I will say remake it and just make it playable on Switch. I don't care if you change anything else. If you make some quality of life upgrades and shit, that's awesome. Just put it on the Switch. And by remaking it, remake it as a Switch game. And I'm happy. And then I would erase Metroid Fusion. And as you're going to hear momentarily, I have practically zero issues with this game. A couple minor gripes. This is a very positive episode. Angry Adam is not coming out in full force to talk Metroid Fusion. I think it's awesome. I'm simply erasing it this week because it's the only one of the 3 that I've played. And I want to play the other 2. It's, I could revisit this after I play Minish Cap and Advance Wars and see how much I like them. But for now, I don't see myself playing Metroid Fusion again anytime soon. So it's kind of like, that was cool. Let me experience these other games. It can be erased. All right. There's my answer. Thank you to everyone that played as always. God, I love Play One, Remake One, Erase One. Let me break down what I have been playing over the last 7 days, and then I'll tell you why I like Metroid Fusion so much. Primarily, I've been playing God of War still. It's just, fuck me, it's good. It's wild, man. I sit down planning to play for like an hour. I'll sit down at like 10 o'clock, and I'll be like, all right, I'll play till 11, and then I'll let my dog out, and then I'll go to bed. And then before I know it, it's 1 o'clock. And I've just been I'm really falling in love with that game. And some of you have asked if I'll do an expansion pass episode about God of War, reviewing it. I originally wasn't going to because I know it's a few years old, but a few of you have asked. So if that's something that you, the fine board members of Remember the Game Industries, want, then your wish is my command. I'll review God of War. So just let me know. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know. And maybe I will. I wasn't planning on it, but I like to talk. I'll talk. I 101%ed Crash Team Racing on normal. And I thought about taking a shot at it on hard, but it just is really, like, I have such a big backlog I want to work on. And if I walk away from Crash Team Racing and then go back to it down the road, I'll have to get good again before I can even take a shot at playing it on hard. So I think for now, I'm going to shelf it. I really liked it. It was fun. I got it for like $20. Totally felt like it was worth $20. I just have too much else to play right now. My girlfriend and I are still clubbing away at Mario 3D World. We're very close to 100%ing it together, which we did on the Wii U as well. I love that game. Definitely going to do an episode of Expansion Pass on that. Excuse me. Once I experience Bowser's Fury. And then I've actually been playing Earthworm Jim 2 on my Sega Genesis Mini. That's a Let's Play that I owe you guys. I promise you it's going to be soon. I know I keep saying that. I ran into a ton of problems with the SNES ROM, which seems to be a common thing when it comes to emulating it on the Super Nintendo Classic. So I had to add it to my Genesis. And it's just kind of relearning the game. Because I played it a lot as a kid. I owned it as a kid. But the Genesis version has some changes and stuff that I'm just getting used to. But I've been playing quite a bit of it. I really like that game, man. I love it, Earthworm Jim. So that Let's Play will be going live soon. And that's all I've been playing. Let's get into Metroid Fusion. That's the main event, why you guys are here. I like to give you nerds a chance to share some of your thoughts on games before I indulge myself and ramble for a while. And we got a few comments here. John Doskis said, easily one of the best, arguably the best game on the GBA. Very excited for this episode, as I think I bought a Game Boy Advance just so that I could play it. There are a few others that I played when I think of the GBA, but when I think of the GBA, I think of this game. An excellent, and I agree with Adam, an underappreciated entry in the Metroid series. And he's not talking about me. He's talking about Adam Anderson, who said, I had this game, beat this game, and remember enjoying this game. Unfortunately, that is about all I can remember, as I have not revisited it since it came out, and my copy's been lost to time. The Fusion suit is a cool change to the regular Samus attire, and there was a feature where you could connect your GBA with Metroid Fusion to the GameCube and have Samus wear the Fusion suit in Metroid Prime. That is fucking... Oh, I didn't do that. That's fucking... Dude, no one ever hooked the GBA up to the GameCube, and you could totally do some funky things with that. Luis Oliva said, I think this game is one of the best Metroid games ever. The gameplay is fantastic. The atmosphere is next level. I remember being tense every time that overpowered Samus clone showed up. Me as well. Luis, holy fuck. Oh, fuck. And James Anderson wrote in and said, I played the original Metroid and the SNES Metroid, both great games. The original Metroid is hard and abstruse. My uncle had to help me beat it. It was so hard. The SNES, however, was more my speed. It's in my top 5 best games on the Super Nintendo. I don't think that's a crazy take. James continues, I heard a lot of great things about this game. However, I'm not really into handhelds. Maybe it's why I'm a PC gamer as an adult. If I owned a Switch, I doubt I would ever switch it up. I am dying to play Breath of the Wild, though, damn it. Nintendo, bring your games to PC. Maybe this has caused me to miss out on some great games, but that has left me more time to play other great games my preferred way. So I will say, For a long time, James, I did not really love handheld gaming either. Like as a kid, I loved my Game Boy, but then the Game Boy Advance, the DS, the 3DS. For quite a while, I was kind of out of love with handheld gaming too. Believe it or not, it was actually the Vita that really brought me back to handheld. And now, unless it's like a big fancy graphics, like, you know, a BioShock or a fucking God of War or just, you know, something where I really want to experience it on a big TV with bright colors and sound, I actually prefer to play my games handheld because I can take them anywhere. I can lay on the couch and play while I'm watching TV with my girlfriend. That's my personal preference. So you have probably missed out on some games. I don't think Nintendo's coming to PC ever, but hey, do you? If you prefer, if you're one of them PC master racers, then that's fine. You're not as weird as the Saturnians, I'll give you that. So there you go. Everyone else seems pretty excited about this episode. I'm excited about this episode. My guest Daniel is really excited about this episode because he was the one that insisted that we record this episode because he was like, we really got to talk about Metroid Fusion. And I was like, fine, I'll fucking play Metroid Fusion. And it is outstanding. That little monologue right there might be longer than the game itself was, but it doesn't matter because the best things come in small packages. I'm going to cue up some music. And we are going to talk about Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance, which originally released in North America on November 18th, 2002. Let's go. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows about our illustrious CEO, my dog Molly. But the other silent partner behind the scenes is my wife. And let me tell you, my friends, a 17-year relationship with another person that has to talk to and live with you is a lot harder to maintain than one with a dog. We've had our ups and downs, and as you all know, a relationship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. They can be a lot of work. You get out what you put in when it comes to relationships, and talking to a therapist can be a fantastic way to put in some work. They can help you work through your issues, learn to communicate better, and even just provide you with an ear to bend when you need it. I've talked to my therapist about my relationships, especially when it came to my stand-up comedy career and how much I was away from home, and they helped me work on ways to keep my relationship strong even when I was out on the road. It turned out our relationship was actually better when I was out on the road, but that's a story for another day. And I know, right? Therapy. Who has the time these days? BetterHelp hears you, and they're making it easy. Fill out a quick form online, and they'll match you up with a therapist that suits your needs and that'll work around your schedule. You pick the meet times, and you can get your therapy fix from anywhere, over video, phone, or just chat. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/rememberthegame today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. All right, joining me via the bat phone, the blank phone. I want to call it the bat phone, but I don't want to get sued by Adam. Oh wait, Adam West is dead. I don't want to get. It does it. That's anyway. That's a rough 10-second start, but I'm not editing it out. I'm leaving that in. Joining me via the blank phone this week is a longtime pal of mine, supporter of the show, frequent guest, and all-around video game nerd, much like myself. My pal, Mr. Daniel Brooks. How's life, man?
It's doing pretty good. Got my coffee. I'm happy.
You have coffee? Yeah, fuck, dude, I've had so much coffee today. This is like the third one of these I've done today. Like recording these, and it's just, like I'm gonna, by like 8 o'clock, I'm gonna be a zombie, but I feel great right now. And we're talking Metroid Fusion. Now, a couple of quick little notes here before we get into Metroid Fusion. Number A, Daniel I would consider you you're a pretty big Metroid guy, yeah? You're a bit of a fan.
Yeah, I love the Metroid games, yeah.
So Daniel's kind of because admittedly my knowledge of the Metroid franchise is minimal at best, but we got Daniel. He'll cover for all my shortcomings. And number two, I played this just for the first time about 3 weeks ago after it somehow got onto my SNES Classic. I don't know how that happened. I certainly didn't do it. I certainly didn't do anything illegal or anything. But it did end up on my SNES Classic, and I played it. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. This game looks gorgeous on a little screen. Like when I was looking at it on my laptop and it was in like a tiny little window and stuff, I can imagine how this looked on a Game Boy Advance. It looks fucking mint. On a giant television or a 4K computer monitor, little hideous, but that's not its fault. That's because I took a Game Boy game that was meant to be played on like a 3x3 screen and tried to blow it up. But I played this for the first time a couple weeks ago after you kind of got up my ass telling me I should play it. And credit given where it's due, Daniel, you were right. This game is pretty fucking spectacular, my man.
Yeah, I think so. And the graphics thing, it's that right sweet spot when the Game Boy Advance learned what it could do.
Right.
Compared to like the old Super Nintendo games and kind of moving into the higher quality from that. So it's like that perfect sweet spot of picking up new graphics.
Yeah, I don't want to call the Game Boy Advance underrated because I think everybody likes the Game Boy Advance. Like everybody owned either the original or the SP, or there's like the Game Boy Advance is a runaway success. There's no underration. That I don't think that's the right word, but there's no underrating the Game Boy Advance. Having said that, I got to be honest with you, Daniel. I sometimes I sleep on the GBA and I forget just how impressive it was because I am such a diehard geek for that 2D 16-bit sprite style graphics. The tail end of the Super Nintendo Genesis era, like to me, are some of the best looking video games ever made. And the Game Boy Advance was, in a way, just a way for them to keep making those games. Like, they just kept puking out those gorgeous sprite-based 2D games. And this is a perfect example, because this looks... this looks better than Super Metroid did.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And that's...
Super Metroid's one of my favorite games.
Right, like, that's saying something, because Super Metroid is a bona fide Hall of Famer. Like, that's a gem, and it's a pretty good-looking game. And obviously, like, listen, I don't know when Super Metroid came out. I would guess 93, 94, somewhere in there. This game came out in 2002. So, like, I'm not stupid. I know that this game was made after Super Metroid, but it also is clearly very inspired by Super Metroid because it looks almost like the size of Samus and her design and everything. This is Super Metroid. Am I not? Like, it looks a lot like Super Metroid. A lot like Super Metroid.
Like this feels like they wanted to make Super Metroid 2.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly it. Like when I was playing it, it felt like a sequel to Super Metroid, and I'm not even fully aware of the whole chronological order of the Metroid games, but this game does take place after Super Metroid in the timeline, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yeah, chronologically speaking, this is the last game in the timeline.
Oh, really?
You've got the original or Zero Mission, the remake.
Mm-hmm.
Also a great game.
That's the NES. That's the NES one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you've got the Prime series. I was going to say trilogy, but now there's a fourth one supposedly coming.
Yeah.
Then Super Metroid, then Other M, then this one.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay. So as of right now, like the end of this game was the last we've seen of Samus, other than showing up at Smash Brothers and pounding on Kirby and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So this game, dude, wow. Okay. This is a funky game. I remember you telling me it was short, and it is, which I like. We'll get into that. I gotta be honest. Like the only Metroid games I've played through to completion are Super Metroid and this one, and I love Super Metroid. I don't particularly care that much about the story in Super Metroid. I just think it's fun to play. This game, especially considering it was on a fucking Game Boy cart, actually, like the story really intrigued me. I was really fascinated by what's happening in this game. It really hooked me.
Yeah, this was the first one that had a story imposed on you. Like the Prime games, if you scanned all the computers and stuff, you get the background story.
Right.
But it's not forced on you. This is the first one where the story is presented, and it's got the cutscenes and her talking to herself and learning about her past a little bit. And dealing with that condescending computer.
Yeah, that fucking computer. But I liked, so like, if you've never played, I love this story. So like basically, and interrupt me if I say something stupid or wrong. Just fucking interrupt and be like, Adam, you're stupid and wrong, okay? But my understanding is that, Samus is in her ship and she's flying through space. And then like this, does the virus attack her or does something else attack her and she lands on the planet with the virus?
So she was hired by the Federation to go back to SR 388, which was the planet with the Metroids.
Okay.
Because the planet wasn't explored because of the Metroids, but now that they're all dead, spoiler alert, And then, she gets infected with the X parasite there.
Okay,
and taken back to the space station.
All right. Oh, right. So she got the X virus on the planet with the Metroids and then went back to the space station and brought the virus with her.
When they operated her on the medical ship, the virus had infected the biological portions of her power suit.
Okay.
First time we found out that it has biological portions.
Right.
And then via that, it entered the space station.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So then there's the X virus is basically the whole concept of the game is you're in this space station and the X virus is there and it's it makes the bad guys basically like they're all just parasites and stuff, right?
It pretty much, it's similar to the Metroid. It kills pretty much everything, but in this case, it then mimics whatever it was hosting. Right. So it brings back a lot of classic bad guys, but they're all just these X parasites mimicking a host.
Right. And I got to be honest with you. So because when I started playing it on Twitch stream and I was like, so this is almost like the Samus Venom. This is like Metroid Venom. And we were joking about
saying that, and I was kind of laughing to myself. I'm like, it's you totally get that impression at first, but then it's not really presented that way.
No,
not without insulting Venom.
Because that's what I thought it was going to be. It was going to be like her suit absorbed a symbiote like Spider-Man with Venom, and then her suit became like this other entity. But it turned out this virus was just in this space station and it's like creating all these enemies, and you got to fight the enemies and I got to be honest. So the first thing I really, really want to praise in this game is one of the things that irritates me about Metroidvanias and I hate calling Metroid a Metroidvania, but at this point that's just the name of the genre. One of the things that I hate about those types of games is how when you play 2 or 3 games in the series, every time you start a new game, you've lost all your powers, but there's no real reason. Do you know what I mean? Like when you play the Arkham games, you've got to re-go and get all Batman's power, like equipment and find it. You know what I mean? And it's like, why the fuck can't I just keep all the gear I had? Why do I lose the gear every time? And to their credit, they found a way to make it make sense because this virus infected her suit. They took her suit off and saved her life. But in the process, she lost most of the power-ups that were in her suit. And it almost I'm very excited about that because I was like, you finally made a Metroid game or a Metroidvania per se and found a way to explain why I don't have any of my powers anymore. And that is so refreshing and different. And right away, this game is going to get a good score just for explaining why I don't have my powers. That made me so happy, Daniel. It really did.
And it's not overhanded or anything like that. It's not the you lose your powers because rocks fall.
Right.
It makes perfect sense for the story. And it's covered in the first 5 minutes of the little opening cutscene.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly sensible. And it offers a perfect explanation why some of her powers that she gets are different.
Yeah, it does. And I guess obviously we're going to spoil stuff in this game because that's what we do on the show is we spoil stuff. That's basically what the show is a giant spoiler. But as the
18
game,
years old.
Yeah, exactly. You had time. And that's coming from me who only played it for the first time 2 weeks ago, but you had up till 2 weeks ago. So then as you play through the game in classic Metroid fashion, you're going around and slowly acquiring new abilities, and new abilities give you the ability to access new areas, which is by far my favorite thing about any game in this genre. I mean, Hollow Knight, Will of the Wisp, Ori, the Ori games, the Metroid games, the Guacamelee games, any of those games where you slowly acquire new abilities, and as you acquire new abilities, you can access new areas. That is my fucking jam. I love that. And they explained it so perfectly in this game because as you're working your way through the space station, trying to take out this virus that's causing all this havoc and everything, the computer in the ship that's kind of helping you, telling you where to go and kind of serving as the narrator for the story, occasionally it'll be like, well, HQ has been working on this new upload for your suit that'll give you this power. Go here and you can upload it. And genius. Fucking, I know it sounds so stupid. Maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal to everybody else, but I loved that. I was like, that is such a clever way to reintroduce all these abilities. And like you said, some of the abilities are different, and all they have to do is say well, HQ tweaked them so that they would work for you in this particular situation. It's perfect.
Yeah. Well, and the big one, the big one is, her news. What cures the virus is a vaccine made from the baby Metroid from Super Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
So spoiler alert, that's the big one. But now she shares a lot of the same vulnerabilities. So like the big one is the ice beam, which was so iconic in the Metroid games, you can't use because she's vulnerable to ice.
Sorry to cut you off, but that's because she has the Metroid genes in her now, right?
Yeah. So
okay.
the vaccine basically fused Metroid DNA to her DNA, which is not how science works, but hey, that's not here or there. But yeah, so now she's got all, and ice was always the Metroid's weakness.
Right.
But so they still give you the ice, but they use the missiles instead.
Right.
So you get the ice missiles, which is, the missiles are always in Metroid games were always, here's a missile, here's a bigger missile. So it's nice to have that sort of, here's something different, especially once you get the diffusion thing and it does the little ice spread.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right, dude. I know it might not sound like a big deal. I know I'm repeating myself, but like, dude, that's just such great little storytelling. Like that interested me so much. This whole virus interested me because literally you can't go anywhere in the ship without the virus. And what happens, and we'll get into like how you can access different areas of the ship in a minute, but like literally every enemy you fight, when you kill them, like in previous Metroid games, when you kill a bad guy, a lot of them would either drop a little bit of energy or they would drop like rockets or, like ammo, fucking whatever. Which I've always understood the reason all these guys drop these consistent, constant power-ups is because the Metroid games are traditionally just so fucking hard that they have to keep giving you health or you'd have no chance in hell of beating them. Because they are difficult video games. But in this one, as you kill guys, the virus is released, and you can absorb the virus. And so you can absorb the virus and it'll heal you, or you can absorb like yellow virus is what most of the bad guys drop. Then that gives you back your health. Green virus, when you pick that up, that gives you back more rockets. That is, just the fact that they changed it up a little bit. And not only is it nice to see them flip the script a little bit and just come up with a different, thing for you to pick up all the time. The fact that you're constantly picking up these little blobs of this virus, serve as a reminder to you that this virus is the whole reason you're playing the game. And I think I really think that's a clever mechanic. I can't overstate how clever I think that is.
And again, and it feeds back to the story, the Metroids were the natural predator of these X parasites. So it makes, it even narratively makes sense how you're able to absorb them and get health or whatnot.
You're right, dude. I was just thinking that, why the fuck can I absorb the virus? But you're right. It's because Metroids feed off the virus, and I'm part Metroid now. Or Samus is.
Yeah, and because Samus killed all the Metroids on the planet, because apparently there's only 32 Metroids on the entire planet, the X parasites were able to repopulate.
That's genius.
But one of the coolest mechanics, Adam, what happens if you don't pick up all the X parasites after you kill them?
Yeah, then they either regenerate the enemy or sometimes they form better enemies, which I also think I
thought was a cool mechanic, because I'm like, the number of times where I'm like, oh, whatever, like I'm not going to run over there to get that health. I don't need any health.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I've got an armored fish or whatever. Fishes always seem to be the big one that they like to bulk up. But I'm like, well, fuck.
Yeah, dude, there's one particular part of this game, it's closer to the end, where there's 4 enemies in like an area underneath where Samus is standing, like on a separate platform, and you can't get down there to touch them, but you have to shoot them through the floor. But then when you shoot them, the virus that was inside of them floats up into the main area where you are, and then they form, those big golden motherfuckers, and then you have to fight that thing instead, and it's hard.
Yeah.
But I also think I'm like, dude, this is so clever. It's not that I have zero issue with Super Metroid and the fact that there's just aliens floating around and you kill them and you get health from them. Like, that's just video games. But to go the extra step and put this virus in every enemy, and the fact that if you don't pick it up, the virus will regenerate sometimes into a different enemy, is just, what a great fucking mechanic. Like, I really would love to see them tie that virus into the next Metroid. I don't know if they will into Metroid Prime 4, but I would love it if they did, because I love this. I love the virus spin in this game. Love it.
Well, I mean, the X Parasite has only been mentioned in one other game, and that's at the end of the remake of Samus Returns.
Okay.
There's, depending on your collection rate, there's cutscenes there, and it shows the Chozo who used to originally live on SR-38.
Yeah.
And there's they created the Metroids to hunt down these viruses and something like that. But that's the only other time that they've been mentioned anywhere. But I mean, like, again, because this is the last game in the series, if they ever make a Metroid that takes place after this, hopefully they'll pop up again.
Yeah. There's
so much you could do with them.
Oh, so much. The fact that they can like shapeshift and form all these different enemies and power up enemies and transform into different enemies. And the one thing, the elephant in the room that we haven't addressed yet, they can even make Samus. Like, because you'd have to deal with, how do you say it? Is it SAX or SA or SAX? Like,
I always say SAX, but because it's a text-based game, I guess either or works.
Right.
But
because
it's supposed to be Samus Aran X Parasite.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Presumably what it's standing for.
Right. So early on in the game, it actually turns out that the fucking X Parasite, because they were in Samus's suit, they had infected Samus's suit. Some of the X Parasite form Samus, and so you have this giant, full-powered, badass Samus just walking around this fucking space shuttle, and anytime it comes near you, like, the computer constantly is warning you, like, hey, whatever happens, stay the fuck away from SAX, because that thing is gonna kick your ass. And it does. When it finds you, it fucking wrecks you.
Yeah.
Wrecks you. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that there's a couple of them where, like, it shows up, and not the first time, like, there's no way, but the second time you run into it, it's like, well, maybe I can, I can jump over the shots and you can get some good hits on it, and no,
dude. Oh yeah. Oh yes, dude. There's a part where you fucking you fall down into this area, and there's a door to the left. So you come into whatever the screen is from the top right, like in a little, I think you're in your morph ball form, like along the top. And then you fall down into this room, and right as you fall down into this room, the SAX walks through the door on the left and is looking right at you, and then it just starts hammering you. And I think at that point you have the freeze rockets, so you can freeze it, but only for a split second. And the first time it found me, I tried to fight it and got murdered. And then you realize that, like, no, use your freeze rockets to momentarily buy yourself time to run, and you have to basically jump over it, run to the left, and just move ass, because it is right behind you trying to kill you. And you run to the end of, like, 2 or 3 rooms, and then finally you jump over a wall and land on this, like, narrow kind of secret hallway behind a wall, and then the SAX walks into the room and looks around and can't find you, and it turns around and walks away. And I fucking loved that, because I was like, that's it, teaching you, like, sure, you may be getting stronger, that thing will still fuck you up, so hide at all costs. And I thought that was genius. Fucking so fun, man.
Oh, it's such a fun... No, it's not an easy sequence, but it's such a fun sequence.
Yeah, it killed me half a dozen times trying to get away from that fucking thing. And there's actually an earlier segment with SAX where you're like in the top part of this room, and you just go into a room where you can't even access, like, it can't get you. It's not even designed to get you. But you walk into the top part of this room, and then all of a sudden the door in the bottom opens, and the SAX just walks in, and it's like it's looking around in the room, and then it turns around and walks out. And it's just enough to show you, like, hey, this thing is out there, and it's fucking hunting you. And it actually doesn't pop, because when we were playing it on the Twitch stream, I was talking about how it reminded me of Nemesis in Resident Evil 3. Did you play Resident Evil 3?
I didn't play it, but I know the parts that you're talking about, and you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's just
like,
that
it definitely has that feel.
It does, totally. It's just now, and I may be incorrect in this, but if I'm not mistaken, Resident Evil 3, Nemesis's appearances are random. You can just walk into a screen, and suddenly that big piece of shit is there trying to kill you. And maybe that was the case with this game, but I got the impression that SAX is only going to show up when the developers have a design to show up. Like, he's not just randomly always around. But I might be wrong about that. I don't know. Maybe you know.
No, it's all scripted.
Okay, so it's not just random appearances at any given time or anything.
Yeah, because there's the 4 times you see. There's the one where after you go down the elevator and then the camera stays at the top and it blows up the wall and walks past.
Yeah.
Then there's the one you were just talking about where you're in the morph ball up in the ceiling and you see it walking by.
Yeah.
And then, there's the first time where you're trying to run away from it and the second time you're trying to run away from it.
But great idea that this fucking virus has taken all of your powers and the computer keeps telling you, like, we need to get your powers back. It's not going to be easy. You got to go here. And okay. So that's where I wanted to transition to is you slowly unlock. This is a much tighter, much more linear Metroid experience than Super Metroid is.
Yes.
Like, is it like, I mean, I don't know the Metroid games that well, but I have to assume this is as linear as Metroid gets. Actually, this game.
The only other one that's even worse is Other M.
Okay.
But yeah, and this is
now. But I'll ask you then. So, do you like that? Did you like that it was linear?
I don't, just because Metroid to me is like that whole thing of like you just have to try and figure out and hopefully remember. Okay, now I can open the green doors. How do I get to the green doors?
Right.
So it's not my thing. But I know for someone who's not as into the series or something, I can definitely see it being a good thing. And I know you like linearity in your game.
I love it. Like don't get me wrong. Like I really, really like Super Metroid, and I like the backtracking and the, that's one of my favorite things about this genre. Again, I brought up Hollow Knight earlier because Hollow Knight is just I love that game.
Such a good game.
But I
play Hollow Knight.
Yes, play Hollow Knight,
too, but also play Hollow Knight.
Play Hollow Knight, and the Hollow Knight's easier to get your hands on than this game is these days too. But I love that that exploration in a Metroid game where you get a new power. And then, like you said, it's like, oh, fuck. So that green door earlier, now I have what I need to open the green door. Now I got to remember where the fuck the green door was. I agree with you, and I do like that. Having said that, I really enjoyed a linear take on Metroid. And this game is remarkably linear. Basically, there's this computer that runs the ship. I guess it would be like the AI, kind of like the supercomputer in the shuttle, I guess, in the station.
Yeah. So the storyline is, because her ship exploded when she passed out after being infected, the Federation gave her a ship, but said, hey, you got to listen to this computer whenever it tells you to do something.
Right. So then you go to this space station, and you can't really go anywhere. Like, the whole space station is locked down. You've lost most of your powers. It won't really let you go anywhere. And then one segment at a time. And there's like the main hub of the space station, and then there's 6... I don't know what you would call them, substations, I guess. There's like six different areas you can go to that are literally just numbered 1 through 6. And once you play the first part of like the main station area, then you start interacting with the computer, and the computer's like, okay, I'm going to open up area 1 for you. Go there and shut off these power vents or restore power or get this ability. Like, the computer gives you a reason to go to each area, but there's literally no way for you to go into them unless the computer activates them, because the elevators to go down to the other sections don't work. Like, there's no way to access them. And I actually really enjoyed that. I liked the linearity of it, because then I was able to just enjoy the story. Had me so interested that I was like, this is fine. Tell me where to go and let me play out your story. It was very different for a Metroid game. Felt the same and it felt different at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just to touch, Other M was way too hand-holdy. This was a perfect amount. Like, I found the linearity a bit annoying, but it's passable. Like, it's not a huge deal. And as you unlock stuff, it's always unlocked unless it's a special story bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still go back to other sections and run around them as you get more and more unlocked.
Yeah. There is,
you just have to stop at the navigation room and talk to the computer.
Right. But and I was going to say that, like, there are Metroid elements where there's stuff like you said, once Sector 1 is open, Sector 1 is open. And at some point you may unlock some new abilities that let you go back there, like a suit that lets you handle extreme temperature. So now you can go to a room that had extreme temperature. Or one of the things this game does that I actually really like too is, instead of like basic doors open by shooting them, green doors open by shooting them with rockets, etc., this game's got 4 different colored doors, and they're just basically security locks. And so once you find once you flip the red switch per se, then all of the red doors are unlockable and you can open them. And I actually really enjoyed that because I would hit like the green switch and then be super excited to go back to all the areas I was in and be like, well, now I can go into all the different green areas. And it's not as big as Super Metroid, but there is still some exploration. And then you add in stuff like missile power-ups and things, all the Metroid standards, E-tanks and stuff like that are hidden in walls and things that you can go looking for. And there is still like there's still a nice little chunk of exploration in here. It's just not that it's not the same as Super Metroid and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you find everything? Because I thought I found a lot, and then I finished the game and I was at like 43% or something.
I think I had 54. I just replayed it because of this there a couple weeks ago on my game on my advanced SP, and I think I had 54% or something.
Okay.
And even then, I was like, I'm pretty sure I did better than that.
Yeah, like I was really shocked that I only had 40. I was like, holy shit, really? Because I'll be honest with you, one of the things about this game is minus a couple of boss fights, and we'll fucking get into those in a second. Minus a couple of boss fights, I didn't really find it that challenging. Like I didn't. No. It's not the hardest game in the world. And the thing about if you've never played one of these old 2D Metroid games, a lot of the difficulty is kind of dependent on how much exploration you do and how many power-ups you find. Because you can constantly find E-tanks that give you another 99 health, or you can find more rockets, so you can carry more rockets, or more super bombs, so you can carry more super bombs, etc. And the more of those you have, obviously the more supplies you can carry. The more supplies you can carry, the easier the game is going to be. But dude, outside of 2 boss fights, which we can get into, I died very few times in this game. I did not find this game very difficult.
No, I did once because I fell in lava and I just couldn't get out.
Yeah.
In time. I think that's it for non-boss death.
Yeah, like it's not. I mean, like Metroid games as a whole are usually quite difficult. This one, I don't know. I don't think this is it. I was gonna say I don't know if maybe there's like a limitation technically on the Game Boy Advance where they couldn't put enough enemies in the screen or something, but like. Dude, I think back to the NES Metroid, and you walk into a room in that game that you're not ready for, and it in seconds it works. And maybe that's why it seems easier because of the linearity, it's almost impossible to walk into a room you're not ready for. Yeah. Maybe that's why I didn't find it that hard. You're only going to be walking into the rooms that you have access to, and chances are, if you've gotten far enough in the game to have access to the room, you're powerful enough to deal with whatever's in there. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. So, because I did not find it to be a difficult game. Aside from a couple of the bosses, and Daniel, if I have a criticism of this game, and I don't want to criticize it for being too hard, because it isn't, but so there's a lot of boss fights in this game, and then every time you kill a boss, once you kill the boss, then you have to fight like what is it called? The virus that was in the boss?
The X parasite.
Right. So you kill the boss, and then basically this like giant floaty parasite pops up, and then you have to fight that. But you're already in a couple instances, you're already pretty fucking banged up from fighting the boss, and those goddamn parasites get worse because some of them you have to shoot specific. Oh fuck.
Yeah, there's 2 varieties. Because they're not just, it's not like a giant parasite you can pick up. It's got a shell. So you've either got to shoot the shell with missiles or charge the blast.
Yeah.
Or there's the even harder one where the shell you can't beat and you have to shoot it in the eye.
Yeah, like near the end.
Of course, if the eye is facing you, it's shooting at you. So you have like a split second where you can fire a shot and then you've got to get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah, so like it's difficult enough because it's like basically every boss has a second boss afterwards, like a second form. But in the early modes, at least like you said, you can shoot the blob just anywhere. You just have to hammer on these blobs until they die. But then, yeah, some of the later ones, you can only, like, I don't know, that eyeball that's floating around on the circle of the virus is maybe 15, 20% of the whole circumference of this virus. And like Daniel said, the only time it's facing you where you have a clean shot at it, it's probably shooting at you. And they'd be hard enough on their own. And then you add in the fact that you've just gone through war or gone to war with another boss before it. And oh God, man, there are times where like I beat a couple of these things and I was on fumes. Like it was like if that last missile didn't hit, I was fucked. But at least they're creative and fun. And then usually when you kill a boss, because that's the other thing is in most Metroid games you like find all your powers laying around. And in this one, it was you basically got them from killing the bosses. Yeah, and it was always nice. Like there's the one boss where and when you're coming up, the computer like gets super fast,
and then when you get there, it's like, gee, I wonder what power up I'm going to get.
Yeah.
The ability to go super fast.
And that's what it is these bosses are basically using, like, they're I'm probably wording it wrong, but they're basically made up of the X virus that has taken one of your powers. So by killing it, you basically you're absorbing the virus that has your power in it. Now you have that power again, which again, genius way to give you your powers back instead of just fucking finding some weird looking alien thing that's holding a power in its hands. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed that. That was so clever, I thought. That said, a couple of these bosses are pretty tough. I think you know which one I'm thinking of.
There's one in particular. The other one that annoys me is that security robot where you've got to hang off the railing and shoot down, but you also have to be careful you don't get hit when it spits out the fireball.
Yes. Ugh. Yes. I just found that one more annoying than difficult, but it was so annoying.
It wasn't hard. It was just annoying because you got to get that. And then there's a couple times like I was trying to jump and just shoot down at an angle, and you can get it just right. Kind of sometimes, but not consistently. So you pretty much have to do the hang on the rail, but it jumps high enough that it can knock you off. So you can't just hang out above it. And then it spits out the flame things that you got to be careful. So
what sucks about it is that, like, I actually think that Metroid Fusion, for the most part, handles really well. Like, and that's a Metroid staple to me. Like the combat, the controls, the jumping, the running, pretty crisp for the most part. But when she's hanging, I don't find her very easy to use. And not hanging on the ceiling. On the walls, it's not bad. Yeah, but hanging on the ceiling, it kind of sucks. And in this case,
the number of times that I've shot off to the side or like down at an angle instead of straight down, which is what I'm going for, is just And in that boss fight, you basically have to hang to fight. It just takes forever to fucking win that fight. But the one that, and anyone that's played this game probably knows what we're talking about. To me, the hardest boss in the game, harder than the final boss in the game, is that motherfucking nightmare. Is that the one you're thinking of too? Yeah, oh, Jesus Christ.
So if you've never played it, because I got to be honest with you guys, like I finished this game and then I Googled it just to see what other people thought of it. And everyone talks about Nightmare. And I was thinking like, well, what the fuck? What boss was Nightmare? So then I looked it up and I was like, oh, that boss. How do you explain it? Like a giant blue, sad, evil looking robot puppet? Like, I don't know.
It's this boxy thing with like two wings that are kind of curled down at an angle, kind of making like a semicircle.
Yeah.
And then it's got like this little ball thing that hangs down in the middle, which is a gravity generator.
Yeah. And
so typically with bosses, you're like trying to peg them off with missiles because it's one button as opposed to, spending 5 seconds charging up a laser.
Yeah.
But after like 3 hits of this thing, it turns on its gravity generator and you can barely jump. Your missiles go nowhere.
Yeah. And you have to hit it in a very specific spot that makes you completely open and vulnerable to him pounding on you. And like Daniel said, that fucking gravity generator's on. So you've lost most of your mobility. And I got to be honest with you, Dick. So then, and then you shoot this fucking stupid ball thing that's down between its arms while it's just hammering away on you. And then once you hit that enough, then its face opens up. Then you have to climb up on the wall on the side of the screen and then shoot it in the goddamn face like 4,000 times too. Like
it's floating around, and of course, if it hits you, it hurts.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing. Nothing in this game, when it touches you, takes off a little bit of life. Like, when I first started playing with it, I'm like, there seems to be a lot of E-tanks. But a lot of the enemies, bosses in particular, will take off like an E-tank and a half in one hit.
Yeah, and those hits are just fucking touching you, which is just, that drives me, like, I understand that, like, I can't imagine most video games without... Like, imagine Mario Brothers where just touching an enemy didn't hurt you. Like, you need that. But it drives me crazy when the whole design of a boss is to just make it really big, really hard to get away from, and then just make it try to touch you. I like that cheap sack of shit.
At least this one is actively trying to ram you or as well as shoot at you. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
But,
So to finally, I gotta be honest, like, I probably died 5 or 6 times on this fucking boss. And then because that fucking gravity generator that fucks up your jumps, and it not only fucks up your jumps, but it fucks up your rockets. Like it pulls your rockets down too, if I'm not mistaken, like your shots.
Yeah.
So like to finally beat it, I just went kamikaze, and I just was like, it was just like, imagine two boxers when they're both just fucking swinging at each other and no one's playing any defense. That was me in Nightmare, and I just did it 3 or 4 times until I finally hit it more times than it hit me. And I guess you could probably make it easier if you just went back and explored and found some extra energy tanks and stuff, so you could take more of a beating. But like, that was the only time in this entire... Oh, there was one other instance, which I'll get into in a minute. But as far as combat goes, this was the only time in the game where I really started to get frustrated. Because that boss would have been fine without fucking around with the gravity and making it enable for you to jump and everything. It still would have been hard, but at least it would have been fair. Like, I gotta be... Like, I hate to use this word because I feel like it's kind of a cop-out, but I feel like this is cheap. I feel like it's a cheap boss. Maybe
it really is. You destroy that gravity generator fairly off, which is when you have to start shooting it in the face, which is a creepy. Like, Metroid games have a staple where like they get more and more red as you get more and more beating them.
Yeah.
This one, the face melts.
Yeah.
And it's disturbing.
Yeah, it is. Now, having said that, it is a really cool looking boss.
It is. It's
like the fact that it's named Nightmare and the fact that its face melts and stuff, really cool. But Jesus God, is it hard? And it just like uncharacteristically hard, because the rest of the game is fairly tolerable.
It's a huge spike.
Yeah, like it really is.
And there's one other boss that I find a bit cheap, but it's not the enemy. It's kind of the layout of the level, and we'll get to that one in a bit. And then this is one of the ones where I beat him twice, and then I got killed by the stupid armored thorax.
That's the other thing, is it's like when you finally... I remember that when I finally... Because I only killed Nightmare once, so I beat the virus the one time I killed it. But yeah, you get through that fight, and you're like, oh my God, I did it. And then that stupid fucking virus floats up, and you're like, oh God, no. And it's just... And you're just praying to God that stupid virus doesn't kill you. I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on the game, because the game is awesome and Nightmare looks rad, but it's just such a bullshit fucking boss. It made me so angry.
It is like, and it's a cool idea, and you get the gravity suit, which is always one of my favorite upgrades. I love the way it looks. Admittedly, purple is my favorite color, but I just
yeah, he's fucking cheap.
So fucking happy when I finally beat him.
And it's so funny because I had zero idea. Like, I thought I just sucked. Like, I just was like, dude, I guess I just couldn't figure out the formula to this boss, and I just got lucky spamming shoot. And then I Googled it, and everyone's like, nah, Nightmare is such a sack of ass. And I was like, oh, okay, it's not just me. Everyone sucks at this boss. What's the other boss that gave you problems?
So the other one that I find cheap is the plant one, because you fall through the floor, but if you're not paying attention, you land in, like, one of the little Venus flytrap mouth things on the floor.
Yes!
And it's... Okay,
go ahead.
Like, it's the only time you have to hold up to jump out of. You don't do it anywhere else. So, like, the first few times, I was like, well, if I don't land on the platform, then I die.
Yeah.
Like,
dude,
the boss itself isn't that hard. It's those fucking plant things. And then eventually, like, the one time I was getting pissed off and trying to jump, I'm like, oh, I can't jump higher if I hold up, even though I don't do that anywhere else.
I never knew that, because I never did get out. Like, I died in that plant because you fall into the screen, and then there's a tiny, skinny little platform for you to stand on to fight this plant from. And if you land on either side of it, then yeah, like Daniel said, you land basically in this giant mass of plants, and they eat you and take all your health. And I never knew I could jump out. I died a few times falling into the plants, and then finally I landed on the platform, and then I killed him first try. But I totally forgot that. And yeah, no other point of the game do you have to hold up to jump. Yeah. What the fuck? That is
like
bullshit.
Even when you get the high jump, if it had said, hold up to jump higher or something, then at least that would have been there. But yeah,
that's bullshit.
And this one doesn't have quick, like there's the sinking sand portions in a lot of other Metroid games.
Yeah.
But this one doesn't have any of that, so it's literally the only spot in the entire game where that's a thing.
Oh yeah, I do. Fuck. It was like I got to after the first try, I was like, okay, when I fall in there, don't fall in the plant. And then I fucking fall in the plant again. I was just fucking steamed up.
One time I got shot and got knocked in the plant.
Yeah.
But then the boss itself isn't that hard. It's just that it's the room that's cheap.
Just don't. Yeah, and it is fucking cheap. Fuck you. It is cheap. The only other big part that pissed me off in this game is that there was one especially considering how linear this game is. Excuse me. There was one part where I got completely stuck, and I ended up finally Googling it, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sakes. And so there's a part, and it's closer to the end of the game, where you end up in like an underwater area. And I got into this part where I was out of super bombs. So when you go into your morph ball form, you can drop all the little bombs you want, but you also have super bombs you can drop. And when you drop a super bomb, it explodes like a big area of the screen, and then anything that was hidden in the walls basically shows up, like because of the super bomb. And I was out of super bombs, and I'm stuck in this little area underwater where there's got to be a hidden wall somewhere that lets me keep progressing. It's impossible for me to get out of the area that I'm in, and it's impossible for me to drop a super bomb to see where the hidden part of the wall is because I'm out of super bombs. And I finally was like, I Googled, and you know, like when you get stuck at a part like an area like that, and it's hard to Google because you don't know how to explain where you're stuck. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And then I finally Googled Metroid Fusion water, and instantly there was tons of posts of people stuck at the exact same spot that I was stuck at. And I don't want to shit on it and say it was bad game design. I just was a little floored because Metroid they're pretty phenomenal for not letting you get stuck. Even if you can't figure out where to go, you can always get back to like an energy station and a save point and get your supplies back. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And this, I don't know if I did something wrong or not, but I found myself at a point where I had no way to recharge any of my abilities and I couldn't figure out where to go. And I was getting frustrated, and I was like, it's very, very surprising. I don't want to call it a miss, but like a rare shortcoming by Metroid where they kind of let you get stuck if you don't know where to go. I don't know if you know where I'm talking about or not. Maybe you're smarter.
Not off the top of my head. But I mean, it had been years and years since I played it, when I played it. So I didn't, but I still, like, I was running into parts where I'm like, well, this is familiar. And
right.
So I might've just had I remember getting stuck at a few spots when I first played it way back.
Right. Well, but the thing is like I'll get stuck in a Metroid game, and I very rarely get irritated when I get stuck in a Metroid game because I know the developers are talented enough that I'm like, if I just go back and I look around, same as Hollow Knight, Guacamelee, any of those Metroidvania games, I know if I explore enough, I will find it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in this instance, I was stuck in this area. I explored every fucking inch of like the 4 screens I could get into, and there was no way out other than this one little hole in the wall in the bottom corner, and it's like behind seaweed. Actually, how you get it, once I read about it, I was like, oh, for fuck's sakes, there's actually a fish enemy that swims into the screen and out of the screen through the side, and I realized, oh, there's no wall there, it's just seaweed, it's swimming through there. And I bet you the fish was there to tell me that's where I'm supposed to go, but I just did not see it, and that was what was irritating me, because I was like, my gaming instincts were like, I know Metroid I'll find it. Like, they're telling me, dude, there's crumbs here. You'll figure it out. Just follow the crumbs. And I was like, I'm out of fucking crumbs. Where the fuck do I go? But anyway, that's literally the only criticisms I have was that and that fucking nightmare boss. Other than that, the most of the bosses are cool and not too difficult. The exploration is fun. The game handles great. It's gorgeous looking game.
Fucking beautiful.
I truly feel like this is one of the best looking handheld games I've ever played. This is legitimately one of the best looking 2D video games I've ever played. And it was on a Game Boy, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
I like the music a lot too, actually.
Yeah, I really like the music. I mean, I love the atmosphere of Metroid games. Like, they're just, It has that alien from the movie, which I know you probably haven't seen.
No.
Vibe, and like it's creepy, but I love the atmosphere of it. The music, the graphics, all feed into that whole atmosphere.
Yeah. I found this one slightly less creepy than like Super Metroid because I found it a little bit more bright and colorful. But then that fucking SAX would show up and everything would just get creepy. Like that would make me, like, I'd let my guard down a little bit, and then that motherfucker would come walking in, and you'd be like, oh yeah, right, this whole ship is, or this whole station's full of fucking parasites that want to kill me.
Yeah. And then there's some nice songs. Like there's the one where you walk into the room and you see the frozen Ripley.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, the frozen Ridley. And then I'm like, oh, like that's at first I'm like that's just a cool nod. It sort of starts to feed in that maybe this Federation isn't as nice as they seem because you also find out that they're breeding Metroids.
Yeah.
So it's the first time where the Federation is presented as maybe not the greatest of people.
It's kind of video game 101. It turns out that the good guys aren't the good guys. Just kind of, we all know. Yeah.
Yeah. But then when you actually fight like the X version of Ridley, it's not a hard fight. Like if you just spam missiles, you'll have it done in no time. Like it's still very traditional, although he starts to turn more cartoonish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the first of a couple times where like the X parasites start to break down and deform as you fight them. Like there's that one.
Dude, and the fucking scream that Ridley lets out every time you do enough damage and it goes redder and goes to like various stages of dying.
That's right out of like all the other Metroid games. Like Ridley is such a badass.
Yeah. That iconic scream just fucking sends shivers down your spine. You're like, it sounds like it's in so much pain. And I was like, how did you get a scream like this on the GBA? Like, it sounds so good. Fuck me.
Yeah. Fuck. The one time when you walk past the SAX and he's just blowing the shit out of the Metroids that are in captivity and you can just walk right past him.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
Yes.
Like there is such an unbridled hatred towards the Metroids that he doesn't even care that you're there.
Right.
Despite the fact that he's been actively hunting you all this time, he doesn't give a shit. He is just blowing the fuck out of those Metroids.
Yeah, you walk by behind it and it doesn't even turn around and look at you.
There's a sense of primal hatred that you just, I love that scene.
Yeah, I thought that was fucking awesome. And then, again, speaking of the X virus and or the X parasite, pardon me, and its like disdain of the Metroids because the Metroids eat the parasites. At the very end of the game, and we're gonna spoil the ending now. Again, you've had lots of time to play. When you go back to your ship and you need to get off the ship, and then that fucking giant Metroid attacks you and just feeds you your lunch, and then the SAX comes in and saves your ass. I really liked that. I did not see that coming, to be honest with you. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and I know you haven't played the Samus Returns or the original Metroid 2 on the original Game Boy.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's one of the evolved forms of the Metroid.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like right at the end of the game, you're getting ready to leave the shuttle, and then this fucking giant Metroid attacks you, and it is about to kill you, and then the SAX the parasite version of you comes in and saves you, and then you basically absorb it, if I'm not mistaken. You absorb the SAX.
It dies, and I mean it's implied that it's weak from when you fought the SAX, which is the other time where it does a really cartoony thing, because after you damage it enough, it turns into this really mutated cartoonish version of Samus.
Yeah.
And then it shows up, it shoots. It's a nice thing because it shows you how you're going to fight it.
Yeah.
Cause it just runs up, shoots, and then it gets swiped and turns into the virus. And then you absorb it. You get the even cooler looking, like I love the design of the Metroid. That just organic armor look of the Metroid.
Me too.
The fusion suit.
Yeah.
And then you get an even badass version, which brings you this cross between the classic one and the Metroid one. And then, you're powered up again, and then you can kill it.
Yeah. So then, like, because maybe I'm just... So you do fight the SAX, and I actually found that fight quite easy. Once you figure out the pattern of her, then it's like, this is actually remarkably... You just know, shoot, jump, shoot, jump, shoot, jump. Like you said, once you shoot it... Because originally you basically fight a carbon copy of yourself, then it mutates into this fucking weird alien-looking Samus, and then it turns into the virus and you kill. It's not hard. It's not. I don't find it a difficult fight. But then at the end of the game, you're getting ready to leave this. So they basically set in place that they're gonna destroy this entire space station and destroy the virus or the parasite that's on the space station and everything like that. And then you run to get away. Then this Metroid fucking attacks you and is like, you're not going anywhere. But then the SAX shows up and helps you defeat the Metroid. And correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, but then you get in your ship and you get the fuck out of there before the station explodes. And then they think that they've like killed off this parasite and everything by blowing up the station. But the parasite is in you, isn't it? Like you absorbed it and got away with it.
The parasite that No, because the Metroid part of your DNA absorbs all the parasites. So.
Oh yeah, right. So I guess the parasite wouldn't be in you because the Metroid in you that they put in you to fight off the parasite absorbed the parasite. So you've just kind of absorbed it and used it for yourself. But
so it's a very it's a very self-sacrificing thing by the parasite to let it be absorbed by you.
Right, and it lets itself be absorbed by you so that you can kill the Metroid because the parasite's entire obsession is killing the Metroids.
Yeah.
Fucking what a dude! This was and quickly because this has been a long episode. This has been good stuff. This has been a long episode. This is not a long game, and I remember because this lost our Patreon poll, but you had really been pushing me to play it, and I had wanted to play it for quite a while. And then when I looked up how long it is to beat, people were saying like 5 hours, 6 hours. And I was like, "What, really?" And that's it. Like which I loved because I was like, it's not a long video game. You could probably take a couple more hours on if you had gone back because, like you said, dude, there's a part right near the end of the game where before basically you start the final sequence where you fight the SAX and stuff, where you've unlocked everything, you've unlocked every area, every sector, all the security doors are open, you have all your powers, and you can basically, if you want to, just do a clean sweep of the game and look for all the extra power-ups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's optional. It's all optional stuff. It's not a long game, and I actually really liked that. I liked that it was just a nice little bite-sized, incredibly impressive taste of Metroid. I was thoroughly impressed with it. So much better than I expected it to be, frankly.
Yeah. How did you find the twist that the computer has like the brain scan of her former commander? Like throughout the game, she's remembering back to her former commander, Adam.
Yeah.
Who's she does say, perished.
Yeah.
Or died doing a sacrifice play. And then turns out that this computer has his brain scan or something, and it feels a little out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say.
But I think it's the only way that makes the last bit, because she wants to destroy the station, and the computer originally won't let her because it's the Federation wants to study these X-parasites. And then it's after she calls the computer Adam, which is the name of her commander, and it wakes up the brain scan or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's basically the computer's like, well, there's still X-parasites on the planet, so we need to blow up both.
Yeah. That
and I mean, I don't think you could have worked in the computer, unless you could have just had Samus realize that there's still parasites there and I have to do them both.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
So it felt a little out of nowhere, but it still kind of worked.
It did, but I guess if I was going to criticize one part of the story, that was it. So this computer is basically like the Confederation or whatever is basically telling this computer to tell you what to do, and they're giving you powers and the whole time, every time you're in an elevator, they do a flashback or you see inside Samus's mind what she's thinking, and she's thinking about her former commander Adam and how much she respected him and stuff. And then at the end of the game, that commander is in the computer or something. And I got to be honest, you knew at some point this commander was going to show up because why else are they talking about him? He's going to play some kind of role. But I expected it to be something like this Adam dude had been infected by this parasite, and you had to sacrifice him there or something. And then the fact that he kind of was the computer or got into the I could have lived without that. To be honest with you, I could have lived without that. But
yeah,
whatever though. It was what it was. I didn't think the payoff, because they really built it up during the game how much she misses this Adam guy.
And how much this computer is a tool of the Federation.
Yeah.
And then so I think I can totally see what they were going for. I think it misses the mark.
Yeah, I do too. I could have lived, didn't take away from it, but I could have lived without that. I was more just fascinated by the whole idea that the you're kind of stuck in the middle of this battle between Metroids and this parasite, and you're like, well, who, do they both suck? Does one suck more than the other? Is there one that I want to kill? And then at the end of the day, like you said, they don't want you to blow up this station because they want to study it, and they're cloning Metroids and shit. And then you're like, no, fuck that. I'm blowing up this station. I absorbed what little bit of the parasite was left to help destroy everything on the station, and now everything is just set back to normal. And the cool thing, Daniel, is if they wanted to, I think they could easily do another story with this parasite And I don't mean to just call back to the simple explanation, but frankly, all they have to do is do something like Spider-Man with Venom, where Samus realizes that this parasite that's in her is not just been absorbed by the Metroid cells in her or something, and they extract it or whatever, or she's mutating, or you know what I mean? Like, the fact that she absorbed it at the end, they could do whatever they want with it. And I would be so interested to see them do something with that. I really hope they do, because I thought it was really fascinating. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really wish that we would get a new Metroid game set after this.
Yeah, man. I frankly, maybe this is not a popular take with Metroid fans, but I actually found the X Parasite more interesting than the Metroids. Like, for an enemy. That's
the
just
Metroids
me.
are boring.
They
like,
are.
I mean, the first game, there's like 6 of them. They're in one room. There's a giant, like, I mean, they're a pain in the ass because you have to freeze them and then blast them with like 10 missiles.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, for being a titular character, there's not much to them.
No, there's not.
So
I mean, I just,
like
I find
the
them
X
kind of boring.
Parasite was cool, and and the way it was like infecting like the security. I think it was a security robot where like it uses an organic neural network.
Yeah.
Which is something that actual science has been trying to do for years, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was a little, like, I'm not trying to shit on it. I just thought it was a little, I think they're a cooler villain. Like, I would be so happy if Metroid Prime 4 was all about the X Parasite. I would think that'd be fucking, I can't imagine they'll go that way, but I just think that'd be fucking awesome. Or bare minimum, I would love to see Metroid Prime 4 play off the idea that Samus has Metroid in her now, like cells in her. Like, play off that, give her some cool new powers with it or something, you know what I mean? Like, but...
Yeah, nothing says Metroid 4 has to go through the same period as the other 3 Metroid
No, not at all. It's just, like, I don't know why they can do whatever they want with it, so... if it ever comes out, God knows they've already restarted it once, so who knows if we'll ever fucking get it, but... Dude, I gotta be honest with you, buddy. Fucking you have been up my ass for months to play Metroid Fusion, and now I get it. I'm not now. Again, all I've played to completion is Super Metroid and this. I don't know if I'm willing to put Metroid Fusion ahead of Super Metroid, but it's certainly in the discussion. They're both great fucking games. Great fucking games.
Well, now that you've played this one, which is the shorter one, now go play Zero Mission. It's a little longer than this one. It's not quite full mission, but it takes all the things it did right with this game and builds on them.
Honestly, I intend to. Like, I don't know when, but like, Super Metroid's just been this like anomaly that I played and was like, well, that was a lot of fun. And then I played about half of Metroid Prime. I refuse to buy it for my GameCube because it's expensive, and I have no doubt the minute I buy it, they're going to announce Metroid Prime Trilogy for the Switch. No fucking doubt in my mind. So I'm just going to wait for that. I know it's coming, and when it finally comes to Switch, I'll play it. But this game kind of really got me reinterested in the Metroid series, and I'm going to play some more of them for sure because this was fucking awesome. We're at an hour, dude. Before we score this, you got any final thoughts, or do you want to score it and get on with your life?
Go play this game. Seriously, you can get it done within a weekend.
Yeah, you can. I did. I beat it. I finished it in 3 sessions.
You can do this in an evening if you want.
Yeah. I beat it. I beat it in 3 sessions without having to look anything up other than that one little spot where I got stuck.
Yeah,
so.
like it's a fun little game. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of a way to score it, and I know we haven't done a score out of 1 to 10 in a long time, but it has the X Parasite, and X is the Roman numeral for 10. So, on a scale of 1 to X, what would you give Metroid Fusion?
I'm going to give it a VIII, an 8.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was waiting for you to come out and be like, I'll give it a 7 or 8. I was going to go VIII. You fucking stole my, God damn it. Yeah. Honestly, same. I probably 8.5, somewhere in there.
Yeah, Super Metroid's a little bit better. And the linearity thing isn't quite my beef. Or isn't quite my thing.
Yeah.
But it's such a fun game.
Yeah.
Fuck Nightmare.
Yeah. Fuck Nightmare.
But
you know what?
It's so fun. I had so much fun replaying it.
Dude, you know what this game showed me is that I desperately want GBA games on the Switch. Like, more than Nintendo 64 on Switch, I want GBA on Switch. Because I think that these games on that little screen would just look spectacular.
That would be beautiful.
And I want to play more of these games that I haven't played. Like this one. So, dude, thank you for taking an hour out of your day to give me a call. And also thank you for kicking me in the ass and making me play Metroid Fusion, because this was fucking outstanding. So great suggestion by you, my man.
I'm glad you finally did. I feel like there's not enough people who play this, so it's nice to get at least one more, and hopefully this gets a couple more of people there. I know it's popular because when you started playing it on Twitch, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah!"
Yeah, I was shocked at how many people I really didn't know. But again, I consider myself a fairly uneducated GBA player, and I had no idea that this game had the following that it did. So if you haven't played it, it's not super easy to find. I know it's on Wii U, but it's not the easiest game in the world to find. But if you could find a way to play it, highly recommended you give it a shot, because it's fucking... Oh, dude, it's on the 3DS Virtual Console. I'm looking right now.
Is it? Oh, nice.
Yeah. So fucking there you go. If you have a 3DS, and everyone in the world has or had a 3DS, I give this game my highest seal of approval. Fucking outstanding. Good stuff, buddy. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you all so much for listening. And Daniel, thank you so much for giving me a call and talking Metroid Fusion after you insisted that I sit down and play Metroid Fusion, because it is quite superb. Guys, listen, if you're enjoying the show, if you're enjoying what we do, if you've enjoyed even one of the last 138 episodes of this thing, please consider supporting us on Patreon. I know I say it every week, but it has never been a better time to sign up. It is $2 US. I think it's $3 Canadian. But it helps me out. You keep the little guy alive, an independent content creator. You get access to a ton of old podcasts, bonus podcasts. This Sunday's episode of Expansion Pass is going to be looking back at the last 4 years of the Nintendo Switch. Next Sunday's episode of Expansion Pass is going to be ranking my top 20 SNES games of all time. I'll remember the game Patreon poll for March, the Sega edition. I was going to say Sega Genesis, but there's some Sega CD and some Dreamcast games on there. The Sega edition of our Patreon poll is running until Saturday, and everyone that signs up on our Patreon by March 21st is going to receive a Remember the Game lanyard courtesy of yours truly. So they're really, for the love of God, if you've been thinking about it, there's nothing else I can give you. This isn't one of those infomercials where they're like, find a better deal. I have nothing left to give. Patreon.com/Remember the Game. And my online comedy show is coming up on Saturday, March 20th. You can watch it from the comfort of your own home. It's really simple. $20 Canadian buys you a ticket. As many of you that are living in the house want to watch it at once, you can. You don't need to buy a ticket for everyone that's staring at your TV. You can find tickets right now on Eventbrite. Just go to Eventbrite and then search for Adam Blank, and you'll find my I'll do an online show event. Mark McHugh, former Remember the Game Hall of Famer, is going to be there too. He's going to be my opening act, and we'd really appreciate it if you came by and laughed at our stupid jokes, or at least stared at us weirdly while we told our stupid jokes. And that is going to do it for this week's episode. Listen, normally I record the shout outs to all our Patreons right now and then post them for the end of the episode, and then it plays for the month. But there's been a whole bunch of credit cards where people had to, it's only March 2nd right now. People haven't had time to fix their credit cards and things, and I don't want to record the shout outs and leave anybody out. So thank you all, everybody. I'm going to be playing the old shout-outs this week, and next week I'll record new ones once all the credit cards are up to date and everybody has got their information in, and everyone that needs to do in the shout-outs gets into the shout-outs, okay? Good enough. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'll talk to you guys all again soon. Clean your controllers, wash your hands, stay safe, and look out for each other. Cheers. Remember the Game is brought to you by our Patreons. I simply could not produce all the content I am without all of your support, so I'd like to take a quick moment to thank everyone that has supported us for at least $2 at patreon.com/Remember the Game. So a huge thank you to A Novel Console, Aaron Lawson, Adam Anderson, Adam Beasley, Adam Oshirello, AJ Freeman, AJ Jones, Alan C., Alex Martinez, Amarok, Amy Gillen, Andre, Andrew Wright, April Sane, Arpad Botos, Ashley Cronenbitter, Badar Barhumi, Ben Booyah, Ben Busha, Ben Drinkin, Boognish, Bradley McHugh, Brandon O'Brien, Brandon Hine, Brian McKay, Brian Robbins, Brian Medeiros, Brian Ransom, Charlie Medeiros, Chris Campbell, Chris Fleury, Chris Wilson, Christopher Russell, Christopher Sumner, Chuck Schlarp, Corey, Craig Rutt, Crash Bandicoot, Chris Knife 007, Dan T, Dana Wucherall, Danny Vega, Dario Omen, Darren, Dave McGee, Dave Thompson, David Ray, David Schnatter, Defunct, Derek Jane, Derpimus Prime, Desert Tortoise, Devin Gordon, Divalk, DNA Gaming, Du Howe, Dominic S. Thompson, Doug Dorn, Dylan, M. Felth, Eric Cannard, Evan Refuse, Freddie Martinez, Fraser Burns, Freddie Bovenkirk, G9PSX, Gary C., Geek Life Radio, Grimpy, Andre SJA Flash, James Anderson, James Clark, Jared, Jason Cortez, JB Retromania, Jay Clutch, Jeff Johnson from Game on GNT, Jeffrey Mathis, Jer Bear, Jesse Clark, Joe Buck, Joe Gillespie, Joe Mack, John Doskus, John Quack, Jordan, Josh Morgan, Josh from the Press Start to Join podcast, Kate Roberts, Casey Rarick, Keegs, Kelly, Kevin Chincholo, Kevin Donlin, Kevin Hufford, Kyle Paul, Lane Orr, Leon Nabskog, Les Wine and Luca, Luis Oliva, Mackenzie Wheeler, Mad Shibs, Make Mallow Shift Money, Mark Jones, Mark McHugh, Mark 209, Martin Greenwood, Matt Brown, Matt McLean, Matthew Davis, Mercury 869, Michael Mathis, Mick Morse, Michael Haig, Mike Cummings, Mike Mallowaney, Miklos Blackshaw, Miles from BringBackRetro.com, Morgan, MPG in Buffalo, Mr. Satan, Mr. Impressive, Mr. Nick, Mr. Me Seeks 0406, Wolverine Films, Nathan Tremblay, Nathan W, Nevrop, Nick Sills, Nicholas Martinez, Ninja Lunchbox 79, No One Cares, Pat Duddy, Parzival, PB McFadden, Peebs, Pie Messiah, Poops Loomis, Potato Bob Guy, Raging Demon, Retro Ghosty Ghost, Rex Sheldon, Robert Fuchsia, Robert Lippa, Rodrigo Tomazzi, Ron Pierce, Ryan Bayshore, Ryan Kinchin, Ryan Yeager, Sam Wright, Scott Brooks, Scott V, Sean Clifford, Sean Razine, Sharonic, Silver Grunion, Slick Rick, Starl Probin, Stitch, Stupid Monkey, Super Mary Ho, That One Kid Nick, The Anti-Spatial Podcast, The Giraffe, The Honest Pokemon Trainer, The T-Word, They Call Me Badger, Tim L, Timothy Riel, Todd, Tom Kite, Tommy Reynolds, Tony Cherichetti, Troy K. This is so hard. Tyler, Very Cool Dude, Vincent L, Vladstein, White Burrow, Wyman Brooks, X Water, Yamcha, Zane Donovan, and Zoo Troy. I hope you all enjoyed that. If I screwed up your names, consider yourself special. Thanks for the support. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.